Never forget that justice is what love looks like in public. This is a quote by Dr. Cornel West from a speech where he discusses speaking the truth with unapologetic love. Good morning. My name is LaTasha D. Mays, and I'm speaking to you as a lover of justice and a servant of the public. And so I ask you today, where is our public love for the people, place, and planet we call Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh has been described in so many ways since I've lived here for the last 17 years. Most livable city, human rights city, a sister city. Some of us want Pittsburgh to become a CEDAW city, where we end all forms of discrimination against women. And today I want to talk to you about Pittsburgh as a just city. Justice, this public love, motivates me every day to fight for equity, democracy, and diversity. But when I'm talking about diversity, I'm specifically talking about anti-Black racism. My area of justice that may be most familiar to you is my work as the founder and executive director of New Voices for Reproductive Justice. We are an organization dedicated to our people, first and foremost, Black women and girls, our health and well-being, and unleashing our power and potential to end race and gender oppression. When we organize to create access to health care, when we work to end gender-based violence, and when we organize to achieve environmental justice, this is what our love looks like in public. The place is Pittsburgh, where it all began in 2004. Although New Voices has grown into a multi-state organization across Pennsylvania and Ohio, Pittsburgh will always be our home. Our work for racial and gender justice, which includes environmental justice, is a testament to what our love looks like in public. We were very clear in the beginning that if we could make it in Pittsburgh, we could make it anywhere. If we could stare nearly 200 years of colonization, racism, sexism, classism, violence, and oppression in the face with a bold and innovative movement led by young Black women, then we know it is possible to create a just Pittsburgh. And when people and the places that they hold dear continue to resist these oppressions, that is what their love looks like in public. Our Pittsburgh planet converges on 3 rivers, spans mountains, bridges, and neighborhoods, where your race, gender, or income could determine your level of exposure to toxins in the water you drink, in the air you breathe, in the places where you live, work, and play, all of which jeopardizes the health of the entire community. Our planet is a vast food desert that has limited access to fresh, affordable foods, and in the neighborhoods of the people that we serve, a grocery store may be non-existent. Our planet is oversaturated with carcinogenic hair, beauty, and personal care products that disproportionately impact the development and the health of Black women and girls. Our planet has a crumbling infrastructure that positions us to live the reality of the crisis that has happened in Flint, Michigan. Our planet limits access to the city. It limits social, economic, and political opportunity to those who are marginalized. And some of that includes our transportation system and gentrification that is strangling the soul of this city. How well we in this room and those who are not in this room perform, we decide if we go forward from this day to either root deeply the status quo of racial and gender inequity, or we can practice an intentional and intersectional approach to act upon the impact of institutional racism and sexism. It is time to act upon the centuries of expertise from the lived experiences of Black people who have been left out and locked out of the past, present, and future of Pittsburgh. No further research or study is needed. Wisely invested resources, courageous leadership, political will, relentless devotion, and a bold plan of action is my call to you today to create a just Pittsburgh. I have mentioned intersectionality, and I want to tell you what it means and why it is important in this moment. Intersectionality is a concept developed by women of color in the 1960s and 70s, and the term itself was coined and popularized by Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. Intersectionality primarily focuses on overlapping identities such as race, gender, or class as inextricably linked elements that operate and exist at the same time, rather than separate elements that exist and operate independently or in isolation. Intersectionality links identity to oppression, inequity, and discrimination. Just as our identities exist at the same time on multiple levels, so does racism, sexism, and classism, just to name a few. They are always dangerously present. For those who need a visual of this concept of intersectionality, the image that is typically used is a Venn diagram. But I decided to use something else. I thought it was more fitting to use a street intersection to demonstrate this concept. So if you stand on one street, you can see what's in front of you, what's behind you, to the left or right of you. You can see what's up, you can see what's down. You may think there's all there is to see on this one street. There are obstacles such as physical structures, limited vantage points, and above all, there are shadows in which there are blind spots. So if you are standing on this street with these blind spots, what are the things you don't see? What are the things you can't see? What are the things that you won't see? But if you walk to the intersection of that same street, your vantage point is expanded. You can see more, hear more, gain more information about your position and the position of others. You can learn more, connect more, and you can create more. The more intersections there are, the more complexity there will be. The benefit of an intersectional praxis is innovation, comprehensive solutions for the public, and a way of thinking and being that uproots structural racism, sexism, and all forms of oppression. Intersectionality is an effective tool to topple the silos that often plague our progress. The concept of intersectionality has traditionally been used in Black feminist thought, critical race theory, and social justice movements. But I assert that intersectionality can be applied infinitely, and it can be used at this very vital intersection of people, planet, place, and performance. New Voices has used intersectionality to create comprehensive solutions, policies, and practices that create equity, especially as it relates to planet. Some examples include our Voice Your Vote project, our integrated voter engagement program that builds voting power among Black women, Black LGBTQ, Black formerly incarcerated people, and Black youth, while we survey our constituents about air quality and its impact on health outcomes. Our Sister Speak Youth Project is a leadership program for Black girls, femmes, and young Black women ages 12 to 24 who can train to become community organizers as well as environmental justice and activists. Lastly, our Kink Socks and Twist conference is something that we host annually to bridge the intersection between the environment and environmental health and reproductive health. and it's an opportunity to examine the intersection between health, beauty, and the environment. As we seek to create a just Pittsburgh, intersectionality can be applied to affordable housing and community development in Pittsburgh, where women, especially low-income Black mothers and LGBTQ people, are at the center of the design. It can apply to workforce development that prepares Black millennials to lead a green economy in their own communities with opportunities for education and entrepreneurship. And it can also apply to placemaking and creative spaces that value the culture of Black people and people of the African diaspora, elevating our contributions to the city versus erasing them. In Pittsburgh, so many of our main streets are symbols of inequity. Depending on what side or corner of the intersection you may live, it may mean an existence of interlocking oppressions, a destiny of poverty, and/or shorter life expectancy. It is critical for us all to select and operate at the right intersections at the right time with those in the center who have been wholly excluded and marginalized in order to build a future that learns from its past. Intersectionality is our pathway to a just Pittsburgh. When we think about planet, we think about some of the most pressing issues of our times: air pollution, water pollution, climate change, energy use, fracking, habitat destruction, and toxic waste. Whatever the impact of these environmental hazards, they are disproportionately impacting those who are most vulnerable, whoever they may be. If we dive deeper, these larger environmental concerns may not even be on the daily radar of the most vulnerable as they struggle to survive. So I bet you didn't know Black women are tree huggers too. And an intersectional approach can connect so many of these environmental hazards to the impact on people in place. That having been said, the intersection of the environment and justice must be a demonstration of what our love looks like in public for the planet we call Pittsburgh. Environmental justice is a powerful movement, framework, and practice that centers equity in regard to the distribution of environmental burdens and benefits. It ensures meaningful involvement in decision-making from people of all backgrounds, especially race, gender, and class. Environmental justice honors culture. It values local knowledge and expands the concepts of the environment. Environmental justice is inspired by the civil rights movement and the environmental movement, the former for its goals of justice and equality, and the latter for its focus on the natural world. Black people, people of color, and poor people elevated this public discourse. They intensified their organizing and expanded the movement to what it is today. The first National People of Color Environmental Leadership Summit took place in Washington, D.C. 25 years ago, almost to the day. The defining document they produced was the Principles of Environmental Justice, 17 principles that inform the work at present. As I have those principles with me today, that is my inspiration for this conversation. But some of the most compelling principles include the fundamental right to political, economic, cultural, and environmental self-determination, the right to participate as equal partners at every level of decision-making. It includes the right of workers to a safe and healthy work environment without the false choice of unsafe working conditions or unemployment. When government is responsible for environmental injustices, the principles consider that a violation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. and the enforcement of informed consent, an end to testing experimental reproductive procedures on women of color spoke to me very deeply, as that is a critical intersection for which we are still fighting for today. These environmental justice leaders articulated their vision for a just world by citing the intersections of people, place, planet, and performance as their call to action. These principles can inform and guide us to a just Pittsburgh as it relates to planet, if environmental justice is what our love looks like in public. To close, thank you for this opportunity to speak my truth with unapologetic love and a devotion to the complete health and well-being of Black women and girls, our families, our communities, and our planet. Thank you very much.